introduction. Give me a S, 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 give me a P, P, P.
Bingy-lingy-lingy-lingy-ling. What's up, guys? Welcome to another one of Spice It Up. You don't know, it's your girl Spice, and Spice It Up is my weekly show where I cover the topics that are real to us. So with that being said, we got my big top sponsor them, Magnum Tonic Wine. We're ready to take charge of things anytime, anywhere. Novelty party rentals for this nice furniture, best buds for these lovely plants, and of course my own line, faces and laces for my hair and makeup. Let's jump right into Spice It Up. Now, there's been a lot of debate lately in the media and in our communities about the government and the pandemic, how it has been handled, and how it has affected our lives. Are you vaccinated? What's your reason if not? Today, we will be addressing these pressing topics with none other than Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, the Minister of Health and Wellness. The Honorable Hanna will be joining us later, Member of Parliament. So I hope that you guys are ready. We are about to spice it up with this week's episode. We're going to get right down into the bottom of everything so that you guys can be more comfortable. And we're going to answer your questions, even though you said we wouldn't be answering them. It is the people versus the politicians. Thank you so much, Mr. Honorable Christopher Tufton. Is that whatever things to your name?
Boy, I tell you, just call me Chris. I think
I like that.
As long as I can call you Spice.
Definitely.
All right, great.
I like that. Well, thank you so much for coming. And first, before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything, I want to commend you for everything that you are doing, especially the fact that you took the time out. I called you suddenly just to explain to the people. I see you going in St. Ann, all over Jamaica, and I really appreciate the fact that you're actually getting the job done.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Thank
hopefully
you.
when I leave, I'll get one of the Grace and Noir outfit.
Grace
You look
and
so-
Noir.
I can't
Yeah,
even
because
pronounce it, right?
we do have mail line, so.
But this is an important topic, and as you know, you and I have spoken on more than one occasions about it. In fact, I was a guest, or you and I had a IG Live.
Yes, we did.
Where you played a very important part to telecast your views.
And
allowed
funny
me-
enough, do you believe that that was almost 2 years ago? Because we're in this pandemic situation for almost 2 years.
Absolutely.
So we did that live when it just happened, and there was an uproar and everybody was so confused, and I wanted to be able to explain to the people what is happening. So
you played a big part, and so
Thank
I
you.
really am appreciative, and the fact that you're thinking about it still and want to do a service to the public, really, really appreciate it. So I made the time. But it's an important issue. The fact is that COVID has caused significant distress to the world.
to the world.
And
I
to
can
Jamaicans, they have had to abandon life as they know it. They have had to be shut down and shut-ins. They can't go to church. They can't go to the round robin. You know, the older folks are locked up inside, isolation, depression. The young children, the kids can't go to school. We have been battling this as a global pandemic, and we have had to take some decisions which oftentimes are not understood fully. And so any opportunity to explain it is very, very important, and I think that's a big part of my role.
And you are doing an extremely great job again. I thank you so much. All right, so you know, me I forgot in my spice moment sometime. I wanted this interview to be very relatable to the people. So I like how you say me can call you Chris.
Yes, you
Because
can.
I want to just relax. I went and we did a survey. I went into the streets and we did some interview with the people from Jamaica so we can hear their concerns. I wanted to be real. We never wanted just to come from my mouth. So what we did a survey, we went into the streets and we got man, woman. We couldn't get children, of course, but we got a lot of videos and a lot of concern from our people here in Jamaica. So we're going to direct some of the questions that's coming from social media, some is coming from the streets, but I want to get down to the nitty-gritty. I want to touch every critics and corner in Jamaica and get down to the real people them that have the concerns. And some of them are even saying that their questions are not being answered. So I'm not going to bypass none of them. Pardon me, but I'm glad to say we don't in a parliament situation. We just relax and this is spice it up so we can go to the streets. Let's look at one of the first questions from this youth on the streets.
Why is it a case where you have a vaccine that is supposed to assist with the coronavirus, but midway through the process you recall the vaccine? Why? Would I really like to find out why?
All right, well, Good question. Let me just explain quickly. Vaccines, before they are given to the public, and certainly in Jamaica, go through a significant amount of research and testing. And the COVID-19 vaccine goes through all of these processes, the ones that we have brought into the country. They are approved by the World Health Organization.
Right.
So when we administer them, it is safe to be administered. However, all vaccines, like everything else, by the way, even a Panadol, or I shouldn't say Panadol, even a painkiller,
Right.
comes with some side effects. So it is an obligation on the part of the doctors to say, well, you're going to take the vaccine, you might have a little temperature, relax, it will go away. And it is no different from anything else. I don't know of any vaccine that has been recalled, COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay.
They have gone through the process and they have been tested. If there is an issue of concern, we report that issue to the experts and they will determine whether or not there is a need for adjustment. But as of now, the vaccines we have in Jamaica, the AstraZeneca, the Pfizer, and the Johnson & Johnson have not been recalled from the replaced on the market.
Awesome. All right, so that question was answered. Let me hear our next one.
Is it right for employers to make workers take the vaccine, like make it mandatory for them, even though the government didn't say that?
All right, so...
Right. So what he's asking is whether or not companies should
Right.
make it mandatory for their employees to take
Right.
the vaccine. Well, the debate is raging now about that. There is an argument to be made that for someone who takes the vaccine to protect themselves, to be working in an environment where someone has not taken it
Right.
and can bring the virus in,
Right.
the companies and have an obligation to give protection to their business so that you don't have a lot of downtime from a lot of sick people,
Right.
and to protect those who have already taken steps to protect themselves.
So basically the situation right there so is 6 at one, half dozen at the other. Because now, if the companies say everybody have to take vaccine, it's going to affect some people. But then if some people are vaccinated and they go into the workplace and some people decide not to be vaccinated, they can continue to spread the virus. So it's like 6 at one, half dozen at the other.
That is the problem. Now, the truth is, it is a controversial issue. There are 3 companies now that have employees have taken their company, their bosses to court. It is now in the courts.
Really?
I don't know what will happen. I'm not going to second guess the judge.
Right.
But there is a gray area about the right of the company to protect his business, his investment, and his employees versus the right of the employee to choose what they want to do. So when the court rules, we will answer that question more definitively.
I want to keep up on that case because I wasn't aware of it, so I need to keep a track on that case.
Yes, it is an issue.
Because here's my thing with the vaccine. Everybody in Jamaica have a little mark right here, so.
Yes.
You have one?
Yes, very much so.
And we've been getting these vaccine shots ever since we were a child. But most people are afraid to take this one in particular. Why do you think so?
First of all, you're right. There is a requirement if you want to go into the public education system to get immunized, the vaccine that you put in your arm. And all of us have it. And it's quite strange that all of us take that vaccine and then we have a problem with the COVID one.
Right, so why?
Some of the reasons are that some people say that the vaccine come up too quick.
Right,
So as
that's also
COVID
a
starts, you have a
question that-
vaccine.
right.
And the truth is, that's not true. The SARS virus, family of viruses, have existed from way back 2008. They have started working on vaccines to deal with it. This is a variation of that particular family of viruses.
Right.
So when it came about, when it was first discovered in China, the Chinese made the sequencing, if you will, the formula, available to the world, and scientists, all they did was to tweak what they were doing already and came up with the COVID-19 vaccine. So it's not like they just started to research it and came out with one in 6 months, because it is true, vaccines take a long time to be perfected. So I think people are fearful because they think it's too new and they need to wait a little longer, but they don't need to fear that.
And since we're on that topic of people are fearful and they're saying it's too new, that's also one of my questions that I have. But someone also said, is it true that the COVID isn't real? It's just the government trying to manipulate the people for pharmaceutical gain? So
Oh, boy.
them say it's a scam, it come up too quick. So it's the same topic, but these are just some concerns that people in the streets have out there and saying.
And I fully appreciate the right of people to ask questions and satisfy themselves. I've been in communities where them say it's not COVID, they call it the bad flu.
Right.
You know, particular community in Jamaica, even though people are dying.
And people are still saying that COVID is not real. You're aware of that as well.
And I want to refute that very clearly. COVID is real. It has killed over 2,200 Jamaicans, well over 3 million people in the world. I think it's more like 4 now. And it has hospitalized many people.
Right.
So we must accept that it is a virus. It will attack you. It transfers from one person to the next based on droplets, and it can kill. How do we deal with it? Well, we have 2 ways to deal with it. And this is where the vaccine come in. One is to non-clinical measures. That's the wearing of the mask, the physical distancing, keeping out of crowds, that sort of thing. Or the clinical way is to take the vaccine that has gone through tests and trials. And 99% of people who are in hospital from COVID or who die are people who have not taken the vaccine. The people who take the vaccine, even if they get COVID, they survive. And that is now a tried, tested, and proven formula.
Right.
So I really would want to urge persons to reconsider if they haven't taken the vaccine. It's the best way to secure themselves.
I appreciate that. Is there a number so far of how many people in Jamaica are vaccinated?
Yes, we have delivered about 915,000 doses of vaccine. And the number of, we have about over 500,000 who have had a first shot, and 300,000 who have had a double shot, which is a complete process. And then for the Johnson & Johnson, which is a single dose, we have had about 50,000 or so. So their shot is just 1 dose. The other 2, you have to get 2 doses. So in total, I would say we're close to about 700,000 Jamaicans who have gotten it, the 900 and odd shots. And guess what? I have gotten it.
Right.
I am strong as ever, still doing all the functions that I used to do before the vaccine.
How long now you get it though? Because they say after a while.
No, I got it not too long after it came into the country. And you know, we have international.
That's about a year?
Yeah, I got mine less than a year, maybe about a month or 2 after it came in, because I remember now we had given them, started with the older population, frontline workers first, and then the politicians came. But the cabinet, every member has gotten it. The Prime Minister, the opposition leader, Mark Golding, has gotten it. Right. And I could go on and on. The point is that if something was going to happen, Spice, it would have happened already.
But you know, Jamaican people are different. You have a hard nut for cracking up, because it's a Jamaican set of people, them now, I want different set of people. Even when people are dying, you know, and they are seeing it and know it, I still hear people say, not go so. It's not real.
That is a real.
I understand that you have a hard task.
It is challenging.
And that's why, I know it's extremely challenging. But let us go back to the street so I don't take up all the time.
Is it true that the vaccine is a way to trick people so that the government can track them?
Right. So that's another way to say, does the vaccine have a chip in it? A lot of people are saying the vaccine have chip, and they start to call names of people in software like Bill Gates and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Not true. There is no chip in the vaccine. The vaccine is a fluid, just a little bit. It does not have the virus in it, because that's another thing that people ask.
That's all my question is.
Right?
You're saying COVID,
it has no virus in it. There are different technologies, and I don't want to get too complicated. The long and short of it is all it does, it mimics, it imitates the virus to force your body to build up resistance. And then when you build up the resistance and you get the real virus, then your body fights it off, so you don't get sick. That's really what it is. When you're growing up, your mother or grandmother used to say, make the picnic go get little germs.
Right,
because
remember that.
Go play in the dirt.
And they build up. Get sick quick,
exactly.
So
that's what the vaccine does. That's a simple way to explain it, and it will cause no harm beyond that.
Explain this part to me. When the vaccine came out, most people said there wasn't a cure. And if there was a cure for it, how do they know what they are treating, or what exactly is inside of the vaccine? Is there a list that we provide to people so that they can do their own research? Because that's another thing why people are afraid, because they're like, me don't know why I eat and da 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 da, and oh, them a treat something where them did say them don't know if it cure.
Well, let me ask the viewers a question. Do you know what is in Panadol? When you have a cold, or you have flu, or you have diabetes, or arthritis, or hypertension, and you go to your doctor, you trust your doctor to prescribe.
Yes.
You don't know what make it up.
Right.
So if you go with all of that, why are you so suspicious of the vaccine?
I know why they're suspicious. I have a question. I have an answer for that. Can you remember me in the street now?
Yes, no, I want
so
to
me
hear.
like, oh, we are getting up. I know why they're suspicious, because there's a trust issue with
Yes.
politicians
Yes.
against the people of Jamaica. So is it that we need to find maybe doctors to come to the forefront to start explaining this, you know, to people, so that they will be more comfortable? Because the truth is, I've gone to the doctor for a number of reasons. They give me a prescription, I don't know what it is. I just
Exactly.
trust them, go to the doctor, and I take it. And I never question what's inside of this pill or what is this. But is it a trust issue with the politicians?
Yeah. There are a lot of
Why
issues,
people are
and
afraid.
including that. I mean, as a politician, sad to say
Right.
that we have a trust issue
Right.
with the public, right? Credibility issue, which is why we try to use influencers. We try to use the church. We try to
One
use
next problem again.
We try to use, well, the pastors have their
Right.
congregation. We use doctors.
Right.
In fact, my recommendation to persons who are unsure, I would say to them, go visit your doctor, whether in the public health system or privately. Go talk to your doctor and get the response from your
Yes.
doctor, because that is good. That will help.
I feel like, well, this is just my personal opinion, only because me's a street girl. So again, me keep on talk about the people, because we got these from the people and their concern. So I feel like we should do more of that, giving it to the doctors, that the little community people, them we trust them doctor, we more take it from them. You know why? Influencers, I remember I post something and they're like, Spice, what you do? I sell we out. I pay them, pay you, for say we take it, but they will more trust their doctors.
Right.
So maybe this is something that we probably could look into to make the doctors within the community, you know.
But
do
you
the
know that
vaccine
in the process of taking the vaccine, there's a counseling session. So when you go to a vaccine center, they spend 10 minutes, the doctor or the nurse, to tell you about the vaccine.
Right.
And give you a chance to ask questions. So, but the truth is, unless you go there, you won't get that.
That's the thing. That's
right?
what, I know everybody are going to go.
And everybody
Some
will
people
go.
afraid to go.
So what we have started to do now is to
Right.
go house to house.
That's nice.
So
I
we're
like
walking
that.
the communities now to try and
Right.
address that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's go back and see what the people have to say.
But I free up the church them. And I back account that one. So I want to know, who want to free up dancer?
All right, I like that. I have to represent for that, sir. I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, that's
Me I get
fine.
in a spice mode.
That's fine, that's fine. All right, so the truth of the matter is that everybody have had to suffer some restrictions. Right now the church has restrictions. You can't congregate in the church beyond a certain number.
Right.
You have to do this physical distancing. There was a time when church couldn't keep in the church, it had to be online.
Right.
Listen, we understand the impact, the economic impact, the social impact of people not being able to go to them usual gathering, whether on the bar stool,
Right.
the church, or the dance. Which is why the vaccine is so important, because what we really want to do as government is to get people to go back to their normal life and living.
Right.
We have started, last night we announced that the Jamaica US World Cup qualifying match is going to happen in the stadium, and we're going to allow a minimum number of people, but we said we're going to now allow the vaccinated, 5,000 vaccinated people. We have to start doing that, because the truth is some people take the trouble and get vaccinated. Other people are refusing to. And the truth is those who are not are at much greater risk, not just to get the virus, but to reach hospital and die. So I said to my brother there that, listen, I go on my little corners too. I have a constituency.
Right.
I visit my own Robin when it a keep.
You
and
were
I
on Robin, Chris?
believe it or not, I do. I have a lot of constituents
me
who
I forgot
would
invite you
like.
my ward.
I will come. And I drink my little spirits too and enjoy myself and relax.
Definitely.
I have had not to do that for the last year and a half, so I understand and can relate to my friends' concern. But we have to move forward by looking at the solution for the long term, and the vaccine represents that solution. That's just the reality.
All right. Let's take it again from the people.
So if my man take the vaccine, his penis will drop off?
I was talking about the spirit and I almost drew off a little drink a while ago for that.
We are getting hot. We need a cold drink.
You know, it sounds funny when she says it, but
It's
a
very funny.
lot of people feel that
The way how she
men.
feel.
Well, yes.
And a lot of men are even now saying that they hear that rumor have it that they will get impotent.
So a lot of men have said it, but I can tell you something, a story that will address the question. Well, first of all, I took the vaccine and I am quite in order just to respond to the lady at the direct question. but beyond that, I was on Featherbed Lane in St. Catherine recently, and an old 65-year-old man stopped me, was having a drink and physically, and he said, listen man, boy, I had some problems, you know.
Right.
But you say, since we take the vaccine,
You lie.
problem solved. I'm not going beyond that.
I like that answer.
The point is nothing like that. Nothing like that.
I like that answer. I really like that. How has the imposition of the curfew proven to be effective to the strategy of decreasing the number of COVID cases on the island?
So, Spice, if you understand how COVID is spread, you understand why we restrict movement. COVID is spread from people to people. So once somebody in a crowd have COVID and them talk to you and you're too close, until COVID, I didn't even realize how much body fluids exchange when you're having a conversation, right? And once that particle gets into your nostril, it lodges in your lung, and that's how, once it feeds on your lung, because COVID is a lung disease.
Right.
That's why you can't breathe when you have it. It's a horrible death, you know, horrible death, right?
I've heard some horrible things.
Very,
about
very
people
horrible.
who've had
So
it.
when we restrict movement, what we're really doing is trying to slow down the spread of the virus because people don't interact as much. And that is tested and proven. Now, it comes with consequences. Because, I mean, you can't gather, can't look for your family members, can't have the sessions and so on. But that is a non-clinical way to control it. So curfews do help. Restrictions of people moving around does help, but is not a permanent solution. The vaccine is the permanent solution. Yeah.
But talking about the concern with the restriction and the COVID and stuff, people are saying, you know, we don't act like COVID don't travel at night time, so why, you know,
Why restrict?
why restrict it in the night?
You mean, and travel in the day also. Well, the truth of the matter is that the perfect scenario until people take the vaccine would be for no movement at all, but that's not practical, right?
Right.
I mean, work still have to go on. You know, people still have to go to the supermarket to buy their grocery. And so the question is, what time of a 24-hour do you restrict them?
Right.
Normally the best time to do it is during the nights. Now that affects the entertainment industry and so on. But if you did restrict them in the day, it would be far more disruptive.
Right.
and so it's really just a logical, rational, practical approach.
Right.
But we do agree that whether day or night, the virus will move once people with the virus move around.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let me hear again from the people.
Mr. Tufton, may I ask you again? My ear son I go house to house. And when the children them want vaccine, you know, send out the medical service to look for them house to house to give them personal vaccine. And you want to look for Jamaica, you will know house to house to give them vaccine. What preparation is that? I want to ask the question.
Right. so like she'll bring the.
It look like,
but
it sounds to me like it's good thing she's on the TV.
So like she wants to say another word, but it probably will be X-rated. So I didn't get the full question though. She said, we're going house to house with the vaccines, yes.
But the kids not getting it. Is that what you said?
Oh, the kids? Is the kids?
Let's play it again. Because we want to be clear to answer these questions as accurately.
Mr. Tufton, may I ask you again? Me hear son I go house to house. And when the children them want vaccine, you know, send out the medical service to look for them house to house to give them personal vaccine.
Oh, the
and
children.
You want them for Jamaica give them house to house
Oh,
to give them
okay,
vaccine.
so
What preparation is that?
Okay, so it
Okay.
sounds to me that you are more concentrating on the adults, but they need the children to be getting it because the children are now out of physical school.
School, yes.
So it sounds to me that that's what she wants to ask.
Which, you know, is sensible. The children are really the big casualty of COVID. Over a year out of school, it just can't be good for them.
Yeah,
it's
not
a
at all.
tragedy.
I have 2 kids, so
Yes,
I can
it's
tell you.
a tragedy.
It's
So the challenge with the kids is that only one of the 3 vaccines can be given to them, the Pfizer. Because that's the
Okay.
one where they have done the research on children and have said children
it's
can
okay
take
to
it.
take the Pfizer.
So we never had a lot of Pfizer up to this point. We just got Pfizer yesterday. We're getting some this weekend and next week.
So I didn't even know that. Was
Right.
that clear too? Because a lot of people was talking about the concern of the children, but I never
No.
know that the children
Only can take the Pfizer. So AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson adults, 18 and over. The Pfizer, 12 to 18 plus adults.
Right.
So what we're doing now is when we get Pfizer, we're going to administer. We're going to find the best way to give them because we need to get them back in school.
Right.
So that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that it's because we need the Pfizer to give the children.
I like that. Can we take another one from the people? Okay, this is from Instagram, social media. I run a survey on my Instagram. Amaya is saying, can persons with asthma take the vaccine?
The answer is yes. I'm not a medical doctor, by the way, but if you have doubts, you consult your doctor. And this question can be expanded to hypertension, diabetes, if you have cancer, or all of those ailments. The truth is, the people who die from COVID, Spice, 80% of them have underlying conditions. So they are asthmatic, they have all of those issues.
Right.
So the vaccine is really essential for them. But I can understand if you have a condition, you would have a concern. So I would say, talk to your doctor.
Right.
But the general rule is that people with pre-existing conditions like those, they need to take the vaccine because if they get COVID
It's more
with asthma, it
difficult
becomes
for
a
them.
lot more dangerous for them.
Okay, that's a good one. Let me see another one. Independent _gal _21 say, I am scared, Spice Official.
Right.
Which I'm sure after watching all of this, she can have a better knowledge and understanding and she can do her research because everybody is scared. Everybody's scared to die from COVID. Everybody's scared to take the COVID vaccination. But at some point, you need to make a decision.
Absolutely.
Are you going to,
Absolutely.
I would ask, Traveler 4883 say, I would ask, why haven't the people been informed about the over 2 million adverse reactions on the, is that WHO database?
WHO, World Health
WHO?
Organization, yeah.
Database, which include the reproductive system, breast disorder, cardiac disorder, musculoskeletal and connective tissue disorder, just to name a few.
So
Someone answered and said, I guarantee you they will not answer your question.
well, I guarantee you that I will. I would, the truth of the matter, that sounds like an anti-vaxxer, someone who doesn't believe in vaccination.
Right.
The truth is that vaccination saves far more lives than lives that it has impacted with any sort of negative consequences. As I said to you, the common cold, you have medication that has more adverse reaction. Take blood clot, for example. Everybody fear a blood clot. You are more likely to have a blood clot from taking a contraceptive than you are from taking the vaccine. If you
Really?
read the box on the woman pill, the contraceptive, it tell you that one of the side effects is that.
Right.
The probability of you getting it from that is far higher than taking a vaccine.
Right.
The point, and I'm not saying you mustn't take contraceptive, don't get me wrong,
Right.
right? The 2 is better than 2 men still
Can
hold.
we live on it, you know?
But what I'm saying is, sometimes we're reasoning away to give the impression that somehow this vaccine is an evil undoing on mankind to kill them.
Right.
And, this is what this kind of reflects. The fact is the side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine are mild The worst case scenario for the 99.9999% of the population is that you get a day off because you feel a little fatigued.
Right.
Which is not a bad thing. You get a rest for the day. And you go right back to normal after that.
Yeah.
So any adverse reaction that we do report also,
Right.
we have to report it to WHO, and they compile the full list. Those adverse reactions don't come anywhere similar to adverse reactions from many other drugs. But by the way, when you see these new drugs on TV, in American TV,
Right.
you know, by the time they start to tell you what the side effects are,
Right. You wonder, oh, them are advertising. You're like, why? Oh, them are advertising.
You've seen those before,
By
right?
the way, that can happen, and make sure
That's
you
the
don't.
point. That's the
Yes.
point. So we are obligated to do it by law,
Right.
international law. The vaccines are safe. That's the point. They are
Okay.
safe, and they are the best way to get out of COVID.
Okay, I want you to take a deep breath, Chris.
All right.
Take a deep breath for this one. As we are pressed for time, but this is my final question to you, and I want you to look at me to answer this one.
All right.
You can act like I'm the people or whatever. You have 1 minute to look at me. I have no knowledge of the vaccine. I am saying to you that I don't want to take it. I am scared. I don't know what's in the vaccine. I don't know what it is. You don't have a cure for it, so how do you want me to take this? I'm telling you all the negatives. You have 1 minute to convince me to take the vaccine.
Wow. All right. The minute start?
Yes.
All right. Well, the COVID-19 virus has stopped the world as we know it, and would have stopped your activities that you are accustomed to, that you enjoy, and even that you earn from, whether it's going out to work, to play, family gatherings, your children, all of that. We have to do something to get back to normal so you can live your life. All the research and the scientists' work that have been done says the only way to deal with it is take the vaccine. The vaccine has no chip in it, as some people says. The vaccine is not going to cause you to have birth defects or to damage your menstrual cycle, as some people says. In fact, pregnant women are recommended to take the vaccine because if you get COVID and you're pregnant, it could damage you and your baby. So you're actually safer. And the vaccine has been part of the Jamaican landscape, culture. Why people live now till 75 and 76 as opposed to 50 years ago when they were living until 45. Life expectancy has expanded. It's because of immunization or vaccination in Jamaica. Where when we used to go to school, you walk in and the teacher said, pull up your sleeve.
Right.
It's the same principle, the same technology, the same science. If you believed in it then and you took it and it hasn't done anything for you to damage you, what is the problem with this one? It's the same thing. It's just that it's tackling a different disease. So my advice and my recommendation and encouragement is that if you're still uncertain, the one person you trust, or you should trust, otherwise you wouldn't go to them, is your doctor. Go see your doctor. If you don't trust me, call your doctor, sit down with them and ask them about the vaccine. And I'm guaranteeing you that they are going to recommend it even more stronger than what they recommend for your headache because they believe in it also.
All right. It took over a minute, but I'll accept that. Thank you so much for coming through and educating the people of Jamaica. We took it to the streets, we took it to social media. With that being said, I want to thank you so much for being a part of Spice It Up.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here, and I'll get my
Grassy Noir.
grassy noir outside.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank
Good
you,
to be here.
Minister.
And
Thank
go
you.
get vaccinated. Let's get back to life, please.
All right. Well, that was a handful from Dr. Tufton, Christopher Tufton. Well, on the ear, the man said we can't just call him Chris. So now we are back with Lisa Hanna, the MP, give me all the accolades.
The MP is
all right.
fine. In this instance.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, happy to be here.
We were here discussing, the vaccine process, how it has been affecting Jamaicans, and a lot of people have a lot of concerns. So we took it to the streets and we went into the, the core audience of Jamaica, so we can just find out why are people against the vaccine, why some people don't want to take it. A lot of people say a poison, them say a 5G, Christopher was answering a lot of questions. But what I want to throw to you is, do you think that enough is being done, you know, to mitigate against the loss of income for our people in Jamaica? In particular, the women, a lot of them were breadwinners. And, you know, school is out, so you have the vendors who used to make money. Even in dancehall in my community, in my area, it used to feed so many people in Jamaica, from the sweetie man, the peanut man, the jerk chicken man, you know. What do you think
is happening now?
is happening right now with the whole situation?
I think both of your questions are important. So let me start with the last part. There's no doubt that the pandemic has really had a fallout in people's everyday life, not only in terms of money making, education, just how we relate to each other as well. So with school being out, a lot of the businesses don't have a market. So people used to sell at tuck shop.
Right.
Vendors, the curfew has affected people. I would have to say that on the whole, when you look at the pandemic, and certainly 2 months into the pandemic, 62% of households says that they were making minimum wage, less than minimum wage.
62%.
62% of households, because domestic workers lost their jobs because people didn't know how to cope. And a large part of those persons were women. So women have been the hardest hit in many instances. And people hustle. Jamaicans are hustlers.
So you're saying that statistics shows that
Yeah,
most
and
women
so a lot
are
of
more the breadwinner?
Well, in terms of the hardest hit during the pandemic,
It was for women.
it was
Wow.
a lot for the women.
That's
and it was a
hard.
lot for the women too, because if you come up into the rural areas, like in even my constituency, a woman can't work because her children have to stay home at school
Right.
to school them. So I have a mother, for
Makes it
instance,
even more
example, up in 9 Mile. And she came to me when I went up there and she said, boy, MP, I have 5 of them. I have the one phone, and they're between the ages of 17 down to 6. She can't work because she has to stay home to help them. And then they go to school maybe in different days of the week because of the digital, and sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't there. So there is a tremendous fallout in terms of the pandemic. Now, the interesting dynamic for me and the irony is that Jamaicans don't want to take a vaccine. Why? Because up to 1960, there was a mandatory smallpox vaccine for Jamaicans. You had to take the smallpox vaccine because between 1800...
In 1960?
Yeah, up to 1960, because between the 1800s to the early 1900s, smallpox had killed between 300 to 500 million people globally. So there was this massive push to get people to have a vaccine, and then the WHO globally said, look, we have a smallpox eradication program, and that was between 1966 and 1979. So countries were pushing people to take the smallpox vaccine. Between up to 1972 to 1979, Jamaica had the in-school surveillance, so people started getting vaccines in schools. It wasn't until 1982, when the 4th polio outbreak happened in Jamaica, that the government said, look, children are dying from polio and getting deformed. We have other situations where children are dying from things like whooping cough, diphtheria, measles. And then there was a massive push to make sure that polio was eradicated. So the government went out and the health providers went out and they shut down the country, and they were able to vaccinate with drops. The first drop, about 641,000 persons across Jamaica. What it did was it demonstrated to the authorities at the time that you can actually prevent people from dying if you get vaccines in place. And then you went to mandatory vaccines. So Jamaica has a mandatory vaccine policy for children under 10 years old. And because of those vaccination programs, we eradicated measles in the early 1990s, and we eradicated rubella and polio. So the reason why you don't see polio and measles and those things running around Jamaica anymore is because of those pioneering vaccination or immunization policies that we have in place. The COVID one is a bit of a conundrum for me, because I think maybe just how shocking and bizarre this thing was, that it frightens people.
And that was going to be my next question, because yes, we are all immunized. We have the mark. I spoke to Kristen about it. Why do you think people are so fearful for this vaccine in particular? Because it's not the first we are hearing about
Right.
vaccine, but they act like it came out of nowhere and they're so afraid. Why do you think people are afraid?
Now, I'm gonna say two things that might shock you. I think one, because every time you looked at a platform globally and locally, it was the politicians talking about COVID.
Right.
And in Jamaica, 70%
And the
of
people,
the
them not
people
trust politicians.
not trust politician, politician and police.
They
Don't trust them.
Yeah, from a
and,
them say,
that's
we not
just
believe.
that's data driven. That's not me coming up with some statistic to
Right.
say, look. But the other thing is, if you have overnight a virus and that is smaller than the size of a full stop that ends a sentence, that wipes out economies overnight and wipes out countries. In their mind, how do you come up with something so quickly to eradicate it? So it
Right,
must be you
because
that
that's the
create the virus.
concern.
Right.
Right.
But what they don't realize is that there were coronaviruses before, so MERS, SARS, and there were scientific innovations being developed to counteract these kinds of viruses. So once this one came up and they were able to isolate and use the technology, the vaccine, because you can't create something if you don't have something to work with.
So because that's another thing that the people are saying. There's no cure for the vaccine. They came out and said there's no cure. People don't know what's inside of the vaccine, and it came out of nowhere. And they
But
feel
they
like
do,
it
they
came
do
too
know
quickly.
what, right. So just in the same way, I guess if there's an experimental drug for a terminally ill sickness that God forbid any one of us should get, we would probably try it. This was not experimental. I think the policies to get things approved in various countries. So the FDA is in the United States. And there was a time in Jamaica when probably your granny and my granny, if it never come from England or Europe, we never want it. No, with this generation, it have to come from the United States. So
Okay.
them want the Pfizer vaccine because it's FDA approved, but FDA is that jurisdiction. So FDA, obviously if something is developed at Oxford in the United Kingdom, that company is going to push in a particular direction. So the companies have been saying what's in the vaccine. They've said, look, it's RNA technology. I don't know if when you used to go and get vaccines or get immunization, if when they used to ask your mother, is she allergic to egg? Can you remember?
I don't remember that
All right.
part.
They used to ask you that because at the time they used egg protein to make certain vaccines. So if you were allergic to egg, you couldn't get a particular vaccine. They would have to give you. It's like if you say, are you allergic to penicillin? It's not that you can't take antibiotics, but you can't take that particular one. So it's the same thing. People will always have perhaps an allergic reaction to some kind of medical technology. You just have to know. My problem though is that a lot, because of social media and because there's so much information across the board from politicians, from religious
Right.
institutions and different things, it's difficult for a lot of people to want to read. So the quicker they can get information, and worse if a pastor get up and him is doctor so-and-so, them not check if the man have a real doctorate. Them just say, oh, I'm a doctor.
Right.
I've had that. And then when you look up and you say, but
Right.
him is really not a doctor, you know,
right.
and
But
him
he
never
have
get
the-
right. But and he never published in any medical journals.
Right.
He's just giving a speech. So it's things like that I think that have. And it's fair because even in the past, those persons who developed mandatory vaccines, Grace, would have said that it took 3 years to get to mandatory vaccination. But the difference between then and now is the midwife used to live in the community.
Right.
The doctor used to walk the community.
Right.
Them used to respect the doctor, and so once the nurse or the health aide or the clinic was there, and he used to go there.
Right.
So them could have go and them could have get them little information and
Exactly. Let's get a little more personal now, Lisa. Get into the people and what the people are saying, right? And let's get some more, of the sexual concerns.
You ask me that?
I don't be asking that. And the people they ask it,
All right,
I
go
bring
on.
it to you.
All right.
So I'm speaking on behalf of the people.
All right, no problem.
So some women out there, they want to know why it affects their menstrual cycle, because there's one person in particular says she took the vaccine and her menstrual cycle is now missing for 2 months. So she starts saying, why not this is something have a period not come? And then some of my male partners are asking. If
Your male partners. Are you sure?
my male friends
Okay.
are saying, if it make them impotent.
All right. So I'm not a medical doctor. I've only myself done.
Is this something that
real-
you've heard before? 'Cause-
I in the bar them, the
Oh,
men
right.
over 75
I'm sure
love
when they are sent on.
love to talk, say that happening. And sometimes I have to look on them and say, brother,
Not
talk the
so.
truth. Don't blame the vaccine. Right?
Right.
So, but there's no evidence to suggest any of that. And what the doctors will tell you on both sides, if that particular young lady or lady is experiencing issues with her menses, it could be stress, it could be something else. I am not a medical doctor, but she probably needs to go and see her doctor to determine whether it is a side effect from the vaccine, but a side effect from the vaccine would happen immediately. It doesn't happen, vaccines don't trigger long-term effects or medium-term effects. That's why they tell you to sit down, let's monitor you. Just like a child or a baby, when they get a vaccine, they get a little fever and something like that. So she needs to go to her doctor.
Okay.
Or her
All right.
OBGYN.
Okay. Well, in this episode, it's the people versus the politicians. So let us take it to the streets and see what some people are concerned about, what they're asking, and see if Lisa can answer some of these questions for us.
All right.
And once again, this is Lissy Passion, aka Lisa would have keep it like you don't know, big up Spice every time. You don't know, the kids them in my area can't go to school because no work and we can't get no internet and all of them things there. So we don't want the government to come in and do something for the people them. You don't know, because we are one, you see? Alright, no flow. Big up Spice every time. Up.
All right. Big up Lisa Goodas. Her name Lisa too.
I'm telling
I
you.
think you spoke briefly about, the concern of that, but can you elaborate some more on, even your constituency?
No,
Is
she's
there
right.
something that is being done?
She's right. Jamaica does not have a robust broadband infrastructure, and the Minister with responsibility for technology recently announced, that was Darrell Vaz, that in order to bolster it, he would have to run 200,000 meters worth of cables from St. James to Portland, and another 300,000
Then when that ever
meters.
happen?
Another 300,000 meters internally in the inner circles of the island. What the government has been trying to do is set up Wi-Fi hotspots. So every constituency got 2, which is universal, but those are in the main city centers, not in the areas. So I'm all for building out a broadband infrastructure because it does several things. It actually helps to diversify industries such as the BPO industry, which is a business processing outsourcing industry, and gives them more of a platform so that you could create more jobs for people. It helps to make the creative and cultural industries where content is now king, and the world needs content. If you look at the value of streaming, the streaming industry with the Hulus and the Netflix, Jamaican people should be producing content. So you need a broadband infrastructure, whether you're doing low Earth satellite technology or whatever it is, you need a proper broadband infrastructure.
Definitely.
And then our children need to keep up with the rest of the world. The world is moving ahead of us, and our children need to be globally competitive. So people need to be able to stay here. When you hear of a Jamaican saying, well, why aren't we getting better jobs?
Right.
You can stay right here and become a digital nomad anywhere in the world and work. But you have to give them the tools to do that. So she's right. The thing is, digital technology should be like salt. We need to remove the GCT from all digital gadgets that children need to use for education, and other mechanisms to teach them. I saw recently where Elon Musk has started his own school for his own children and maybe 2 of his friends. Why? Because he says, look, innovation, the way the schools teach now, are not teaching children how to innovate. But also, the children need to go back to school. They need face-to-face interaction.
I can tell you that because I have 2 young ones, Nicholas and Nicolatoy. They need to be in physical
them need to go back to school. Them need to go back to school quick and fast.
Quick and fast. So I think
We need to get them back in. The teachers need to get back in the classes. They learn social skills that way. They develop friends.
Most definitely.
They look forward to going to school. Some of them learn discipline there because some of them can't discipline them.
Exactly.
All of those different things. So they need to go back to school.
school.
The learning loss is significant in this country.
Is there anything that you would do differently, you know, than what the government is now doing?
I would do lots differently, but that's
Really?
another show. Yeah.
Give me two things that you would do differently, sir. I mean,
I would
even
do
if
lots.
it's not concerning the whole COVID situation, give me two things that you think
I
you
would have
do
the
differently.
courage to change the system where the banking fees come down for Jamaican people, and I would call out the banks, call out the banks more. I would try to, and this is something that they're doing, but it's taking a little too long. I definitely would fast track how we give Jamaicans more incentives for green technology, electric cars, different things, you know, have zero rated and personal incentives for those kinds of grants for people to own things that can move their lives forward. In terms of COVID, I would open back the country.
You would open back the country?
I would open back the country.
Why would you open back the country?
Because we have to learn to live with COVID. We have to learn to live with COVID. I would open it. The curfews are also, because, and let me qualify what I mean. You can't have it on one hand, a whole section of your population taking public transportation and bungling up in different spaces, but then saying at a certain time they are to lock down. It's better that you teach them how to live safely with COVID. Have the mask dispensation outlets that are available for people to get a mask. Have the COVID centers, and we subsidize testing so people can know what their COVID status is.
Right.
Have those kinds of things. Have the vaccines given to their doctors. Let the private doctors and the clinics across the island dispense
another
it.
thing.
So if you are able to put those things in place, then you can open back and say, look, if we do this correctly, yes, we will have cases of COVID, but you need to be vaccinated, wear your mask, wash your hand. If you don't dispense with your garbage properly, all of those different things, and you can go forward with it.
So you are not entirely with the curfew?
No, I'm not entirely with the curfew.
I have to stay neutral, but it's interesting that
I mean, because if you look at the data, the fear is that you have to get most of your population vaccinated, right? And that's a scientific fact. Right. It actually is a scientific fact to create herd immunity. But you have to do both things at once with Jamaican people. You have to know how Jamaican people stay.
Because Jamaican people are one different set of people.
Them is a different set of people, and them stubborn.
Very
so
stubborn.
you have to balance it. If you push them in a corner,
I can tell you
right,
from
them not gonna do it.
I can tell you from going in the streets that is the push or the drastic push that they're getting. Them I say, but hold on, man, why them look like them are forced?
So you need to have teams. Have teams going into communities, sit with the mothers, talk to them.
Educate them, because a lot of people are still not aware.
Take it to them, and I know that they've started to do that. But if you remember, you know, all up in the rural areas, it's a corner shop people depend on. So if you have a family earning less than $7,000 a week, and even that them don't earn, because sometimes you see them stand up at the shop and they ask for, you wonder why somebody begs you $50? Because they live on $300 or $350 a day, even sometimes not that much.
Wow.
So this is how a large percentage of your population is living. So thinking about that and then telling them to go and take a vaccine at the same time, there needs to be a greater public education awareness program that goes granular all the way down into the communities at all levels. And the politicians, if only 38% of your eligible voting population came out last year to vote, and you need to get it up to a certain level, I don't know that we're the best people to be telling people to take the vaccine. You need to ask the doctors. You need to be asking the healthcare providers that they trust.
Right. I like that. Well, do you do something differently to motivate the people in your area?
We just talk to them. I talk to them and I say, but it takes a long time. And they know I'm a vaccine advocate, right? They know
Right.
and they will ask me questions and say, well, MP, why you take it?
Yes.
Right now, I have 4 members of my personal staff, right?
Well-
Only one is fully vaccinated. And every time
Right.
you ask, no, I'm going to take it.
You're
I'm going to take it.
afraid.
But no, it's not, it's one was, but it's not that. It's also you're living in a community among people. And Spice not have
Everybody-
it.
Yeah,
This one not have
everybody
it.
not.
Everybody,
Right.
we're good.
Yeah,
Right? So when we take it, MP. And what am I going to do?
right. You can't
And I will
force
say,
them,
no,
so-
next week. So, you know, I'm going to take it next week, brother. Where you wait, man?
Right.
No, man, I'm going to take it, man. I said, all right. Don't make me come back here next week and you don't take it. And you come back next week and he's like, no,
Them
man.
still not take it.
Them still don't take it. But I think they will, because you get them. And what it is too, as I said to you, is just it's a fear factor. It's a fear factor.
Yeah.
I've spoken to young mothers who are afraid. I mean, their children are toddlers and they just don't know. And it's when you
know
sit
what
down
to
and you talk and you say, but you have a young child. If you
Right.
get COVID, you might give it to her. And they just want more information. And I can't give
But-
them the information because I'm not necessarily a doctor.
You know, speaking to so much of them with their concerns, I feel like it comes from there's no cure for COVID. COVID came up. The vaccine was created so quickly, as we discussed. But then you have some people who they're saying if you take the vaccine, you can still catch the virus. So they're saying, what sense does this make?
But it makes.
What would
it
you
makes-
say to them?
It makes.
Because if you take the vaccine, you still catch COVID.
But people spend
So-
their money and buy and gamble every day. I don't know if they're gonna win. So if it doesn't mean you can't get chickenpox if you get the chickenpox vaccine, or if you take the flu vaccine, you won't get the flu.
Right.
It's just how it impacts your system that will be different, because what the COVID vaccine does is it attacks the virus. So it's not like it's attacking your kidney or your heart. It
Attack
is
the
aware
virus.
that if the virus comes in, it just looks for
And
that
is it
virus
true that is the
and
virus
kills it.
itself that they're putting inside of you to attack the virus?
Not to my
Knowledge.
Different vaccines have different technologies, and it is created in a way that it's a spike of the virus that it attacks. And that's why I say to you, as even though I've read up on it, I don't think I qualify to say to you
That these
and I would want to say
Right.
to Jamaican people as well,
Read up
that
on it and-
read up on it and talk to a medical professional. They're the ones, because I don't have a PhD in science.
Right.
You know, that's not my training. So what I'm going to be telling you is really my opinion. I can tell you that I'm fine. I took the AstraZeneca, and that's the one I wanted. I wanted the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Is
Because
there a
when
particular reason?
when I read up on the AstraZeneca, I liked the technology. I like the company that makes AstraZeneca, the vaccine.
Right.
It came out of Oxford University, and me just feel say.
Oxford.
And I liked the fact of the scientists, and they were able to tell you what they were doing. And I was confident in the vaccine, and it's holding up. And to date, I'm not clear that you'd necessarily need to get the booster. You will have to get one at some point,
Right.
but that's the one that I wanted
Okay.
to take.
Fair enough. Can we take something else from the people before we let Lisa go? Let's go back to the streets and see what they are saying. Or even on social media. Let's get another question.
Okay, one question I would like to ask is, I know that the unemployment rate is going down because of the BPO jobs, but why aren't there a greater influx of high quality jobs coming into Jamaica?
Would that be for you or the government? How can you elaborate on?
Well, high quality jobs are established when there is investment and the creation of industries. And so the major industries that Jamaica has now are the BPO, tourism, and tourism has contracted by over 80% because of COVID. We have agriculture, but there's no real value-added agriculture, and rum and spirits. I mean, Wray Nephew posted, big up Wray Nephew, posted
Big up Wray Nephew.
significant profits, and that rum and spirits industry is what, 300 years old. So those are the major, and of course you have bauxite and
Right.
minerals and things. Jamaica has not, I would say, created for itself in any kind of globally competitive market that we can say to the world, we are #1 in this area. And I think
Right.
it is time that we start looking in this area. I'm a big believer in cultural and creative industries.
Right.
But we need to set the benchmarks for making sure that our artists or cameramen or digital content creators have the tools of trade that they can use. I don't know why a digital mixing board, if I have duty upon it, it doesn't need to. You're not going to sell it.
Right.
Right? Cameras
Let's
and
talk
things,
about that.
cameras and
charge
things
you
like that
everything on
don't
your
need to
post.
have duty because you're not
Right.
selling it. It's your tools of trade. And if you're going to be competing
Right.
with the best in the world, like, I don't know why we can't have a major series on Netflix. I don't want to be watching the octopus show.
Right.
Or whatever you want to call it. I want to see that, but you need to free up. The government needs to create the policies. And the Ministry of Youth and Culture should not be a ministry with only ad hoc activities to make people feel nice. They should be given the resources to make sure that the investments that they can create in terms of bolstering the orange economy is done. So I would have to agree with him. The high quality jobs, the government doesn't create jobs. It just creates the environment for people to mushroom and to develop. And that's what I think he wants to be able to say. And the time, I think, is now to pivot. We are way behind, and the rest of the world is going in directions and using COVID.
Yes.
We need to do the same thing, and we
I
can
agree.
reallocate resources to do it.
I agree with you. Before you go, is there anything that you would want to say to the people of Jamaica? I don't know if you want to convince them to get vaccinated. I don't know if you have any words that you want to throw out there, or anything you want to get off your chest.
No, no.
How would you close this out with us today?
I would say to Jamaicans that, I don't know if you want me to look at you, I'll look at you.
Or you can look at the camera and speak to them.
No, I'll look at you.
All right.
We've always been resilient as a people. I mean, we are strong, we're feisty, nobody can push us and in a corner if we don't want to go there. I want to say to Jamaicans in particular that there's a lot of hope in pulling from that resilience. You are an excellent example. Every time I think of your story, absolutely. If I get to his accounting, you do. And you're a maths brains and his accounting you did wonder, but you realize that they had another skill and talent, and people don't know. And I won't go into that, but I'm just saying people don't know how hard you work.
Yeah.
I saw recently a mother with her baby on a bicycle with her weed whacker.
Yes.
I was inspired by that.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying is the day in, day out, there are opportunities that you can find.
Definitely.
Get courageous, take a risk on yourself, bet on yourself, reach out. You have a medium where you help people. You have a foundation. You can ask me questions. I do it by helping to provide solutions so that people can start thinking and asking questions. But I would say to all Jamaicans that the time is right to get courageous.
Yes.
We need some revolutionary decisions in this country, and it starts from the people.
I think so. Well, there you have it. Big up to my good friends, the Honorable Dr. Christopher Tufton, and of course, Miss Lisa Hanna, who came through and talk up the things them, and you know them, spice it up. Remember, to keep the conversation going, let us know how you really feel. Jump in at the comment section and let us know what you think. Spice It Up, my weekly show where I cover the topics that are real to us. Shout out to Novelty Party Rentals for these nice furniture, faces and laces for the hair. Magnum Tonic Wine for helping us to take charge tonight. Big up to all my loyal fans across the world. We are all in this together. Spice it up. I'll see you next episode.